Welcome back to another craft tutorial. This is Linda from the Hamilton Public Library, and today we'll be creating mandala stones. Here are a couple of examples of mandala stones. The one on the left was made by me, and the one on the right was made by my friend Kim. You can see they are very different, and so there are many ways to make your own unique stone. Before I create my stone, I like to practice on a sheet of paper. You can purchase dotting tools, or you can make your own using what you have on hand. This is a pencil crayon that has a rounded edge that I use to make the largest dot. The next tool is a large pin that I have inserted into a pencil eraser. You can see that it will make a smaller dot. And another sized pin is used to make an even smaller dot. And lastly, a skewer is great because both ends can be used, and the pointed end makes the smallest dot you will need for your pattern. So you can see here that each tool has made a different size dot. To start your stone, you will want to paint a large black circle on the stone, or you can paint the entire stone black, whatever you prefer. So you can see here that I have already painted a circle on my stone and let it dry. We are going to start with a large dot in the center of the stone. I'm going to use my pencil crayon and choose my first color. In between colors, I like to clean my tools on a bit of paper towel so that the colors don't get mixed. The next tool I'm going to use is the larger pin. I'm going to choose a different color and place a series of dots around the first large dot. And when placing a series of dots that are going to be the same size around another dot, you want to make sure you go back for paint each time. Even though you're using the same tool, if you don't get more paint, your dots will be smaller as you continue around the circle. Next, I'm going to use a smaller pin and place dots in between the second layer. You can see as I'm putting the next set of dots that the design is already taking shape. Next, I'm going to place a dot in between the last set of dots. So you will continue this layering of dots for most of the craft, alternating colors. If you find that the dots are not quite the same size or not quite as round as you'd like, you can always go back and add a bit more paint. Make sure you add the paint slowly, as it is easy to add a little bit more paint each time, but difficult to remove it. Next, I will add a small dot in between the large dots. Again, layering the dots. Now after this last layer of dots, we're going to place a series of large dots next to the last large dot, not in between. So we're going to create another pattern on the stone. So I'm going to choose a different color and use my pencil crayon tool and place a large dot all the way around. Using the skewer next, we will place a series of small dots around each large dot using the pointed end of the skewer. It is a good idea to practice this technique on a piece of paper as it requires a steady hand and lots of patience. And each time you place a small dot, you have to go back and get more paint. Otherwise, the dots virtually disappear because the skewer is so tiny. This is a great craft if you need a mindful activity as it requires a lot of focus. I find it to be very calming. I also decide what to do as I go along most of the time. You can find patterns online or ideas, but I like to create my own. If I make a mistake or I don't like the color combinations, I just paint the circle again and start over. And if you don't have access to stones or you'd rather not use a stone, you can use a small canvas that you've painted black. You can use black cardstock and make it into a card for someone. So when placing the dots around this larger dot, you want to get as close as possible to the center without touching any other dots. Okay, so we've got a couple more to go. So after this last dot, we're going to place another size dot in between each dot that we've just finished. So each large dot. You can see one side of the stone does have a bit of a larger gap than the others. This won't be noticeable once we're done. So you can see this dot nicely fills in the space between all the others. So now I'm going to place a larger dot in between again. So I'm going to choose the green color and go all the way around. These dots will again be surrounded by tiny dots using the skewer. For most of the pattern, you're going to try to stay on the black circle. But you'll see when we do the gradual dots that you can go off the stone a little bit at the end. And lastly, I'm going to add a gradual dot. That's when you make one dot and continue along without adding more paint to your tool. Here is the finished mandala stone. You can cover it with a clear nail polish to protect the colors. Thanks for watching. Please check out my other videos on this channel, paperback daisies and paper flowers.